Alright, hello everybody, it's me, your boy Cryptid. Going to be talking about a little bit of drama at the moment that is going on between three pretty big gacha streamers currently, which would be MTashed, Hexjuice, and the only Tectone. So obviously if you've been if you follow any of those streamers or if you follow any kind of drama in the gacha community in general, you will know that Hexjuice and Tectone were having a little bit of a heated debate uh just about when you can give a critique or how you say you can give a critique of final opinions on a game. This one talking about Zenless Zero. So they were going back and forth for about an hour or two, debating about different points, and essentially it was boiling down to Tectone thinks you shouldn't give a definitive opinion about an entire game when you haven't played the entire game or at least seen the entire game. So I agree with that. I agree that as a content creator, you shouldn't say, oh, this game is bad as a whole unless you've played the whole game as a whole. As a player, you can say a game's bad without even touching it, without even seeing it. But the thing Tectone was trying to argue was that it's just a different kind of reality for content creators that are trying to express their opinion, which does sway people when you have a following. If, say, Tectone said this game's bad, never play it, a lot of people are just gonna give up on the game and not even think about it. Now, that is a completely fair thing, but he was saying that you gotta preference your opinion with this is my beginning opinion, this is my 24-hour opinion, yada yada yada, but you gotta say this isn't my definitive opinion because I haven't seen all the game. Now, that's only because we haven't seen any endgame about the entirety, about what the peak endgame will look like. And they argued about it, and they kind of came to a conclusion where they were just kind of done with the argument. I think Tectone understood that he was being very aggressive about random stuff, and that because of his arguing tactics, it was getting to Hexjuice a little bit, and Hexjuice understood that uh, kind of what he was saying with the entirety of a whole of opinion and not preferencing it with this is just my 24-hour opinion or so on and so forth. Just little stuff like that. And I think they had a very grown up decision to finish the argument when it came to the end of the argument and not blowing up too much at each other. MTashed, on the other hand, thought he needed to psychoanalyze the entire thing for 3 hours, basically criticizing Tectone into the ground, even though he says he's been his friend for a couple of years, really scrutinizing every little thing he's done. And I don't think that's right, because after the 3 hours of basically just crapping on everything he says or everything he does, he's like, well, now I'm gonna be the bigger man and I'm gonna DM him and we'll see if we can settle this together. You already can't do that once you've already been shit talking somebody for 3 hours live. Like, what are you doing? You cannot do that. You cannot backtrack and act like the bigger man when you were taking low shots when he wasn't even on. You did all this when he was offline. And then the next day you're like, "Well, this was just a test of our friendship." What are you even on about? You're delusional if you think you can try and pull that BS and think, well, I'm such a good guy. Uh, I know I was critiquing him, but now I'm gonna reel it back. I got all the content I need to get out of it, and I'm gonna be the bigger person and deal with it in private. It's one thing if you mentioned it for like 5 minutes and you're like, all right, I'm done talking about it, but for 3 hours, really? For 3 hours, you're gonna sit there and just whatever. I personally wouldn't do that to a friend of mine, even a colleague of mine, unless it was some really big stuff and he was just sitting there accusing Hexjuice of Stockholm syndrome or and I don't even know where he's going with all that. It doesn't make any sense and he's just throwing words around that he doesn't really understand, which is crazy for someone of his stature to just be throwing low blows at I assume two of his colleagues. I assume they're friends, but I guess not anymore. Especially after Tectone just ended it all. He's like, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm taking down every video I've ever reacted to you, so on and so forth. I don't know about him and Hexjuice. I don't know, but I know Tectone has wiped his hands of MTashed and doesn't want anything to do with him anymore, which is completely fair. I do the same thing. I wouldn't want someone like that in my circle. And don't get me wrong, guys. I watched MTash. I'm not gonna watch him anymore just because it just seems weird that especially since I'm trying to get into the gacha scene. I'm not a big creator by any means. I want to get up in there and really pronounce myself, but I do not want to be friends with him on that level personally if I ever got to that point. Now, being a colleague, of course, I'll be respectful. I'll do what I need to do. I'm not sitting here trying to badmouth anyone. I'm just sitting here trying to say how it is. And I'm not gonna if someone's got a problem with me or if I got a problem with them, I'm gonna hash it out in DMs unless it's something that is already blown up out of proportion into the world. And I feel like that's what he should have done already is just DM'd him and talked to him and not I guess be a child about it because it doesn't make any sense at all. But that's I feel like it was hashed out and it was where it was good where it lied that they were done with the argument. They kind of understood both sides and they ended it and then MTash had to insert himself, try and create content that didn't need to be created. There's plenty of content to be had right now between Wuthering Waves, Zenless Zone Zero, HSR, and other games. And he's a big enough creator that he can generate just by talking to his audience. If they want to see a different game, he can play a different game and try things out, especially since he's quitting every game he plays within about a week or two. He's just jumping from game to game, which is fine. You can be a variety streamer, which that's what they do. They just play games, they jump from game to game, they don't stick to a game. No one's harassing you about that. It's not a bad thing to try games out, tell people how you feel about the beginning of the game and go on to another game. There's plenty of games coming out, especially if you want to go to indie games, but anything between indie games, AAA games, bunch of games coming out and a bunch of games that have already came out. So if he wants to do that, he can do that. But don't get offended when people say that you quit games all the time when you do. But I feel like he did not need to do that. He was poking a bear that didn't need to be poked. And he ended a friendship over nothing. Now, I understand they didn't have a real friendship from what Tectone says and what he says. They were just trying to stay friendly, even though MTash was taking shots at him every once in a while. Uh, and I do believe Tectone does more good for the community than he does bad. He's a decent person. Now I'm not gonna say he's the best person. He's very loud, very aggressive, very in your face about everything. If he doesn't like you, he'll say it. but that doesn't mean he doesn't do good things. Now, he helps smaller creators grow. He streams, he does the GATCHA cast, he tries to keep everybody kind of together as long as you don't have any problems. If he'll hash problems out for you, yada yada yada. I'm not here to glaze him any more than I already have. That's just kind of what I wanted to say about the whole situation. Uh, it was fine until he MTashed wanted to insert himself for no reason, and I feel like Tectone and Hexjuice's argument was fine. It got a little heated just because both their opinions are dominant, I would say. They both have pretty dominant opinions, very outspoken personalities, and it just was clashing a little bit. But they're still friends. They're still good. There's nothing, no bad blood between them. But that's all my 2 cents I wanted to talk about. And thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.